Hello.
Hello there.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very good. I'm excited. We're on episode 86. We have some pretty exciting things to talk about, and we do have a very special guest that we're going to be bringing on with us. We know Chris is having a great time at the Edmonton Expo, right?
Correct. He's at Edmonton Expo. The last known sighting of Mr. Seriously Star Wars, Christopher himself, was he was having a little protocol time with the man in gold, C3PO, Anthony Daniels. So got to see, he did a meet and greet kind of thing. So very excited for Chris, and sure he's going to come back with lots of stories. He'll probably even have something by the end of the night, post it. So very excited to see what he's got going on. But he is missed today, but we have you, and you're in good health and everything going on. So
Ooh.
any new pickups this week? Anything new?
No, I feel like a failure. I feel like every week so far I've been like, no, I don't have anything, but I'm
You're
not really
being
bringing anything to the
responsible. That's
table.
not a
But
failure. Not at
yes,
all.
trying to be a little responsible. I know the more that I pick up now, the more I'm gonna have to move in like 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to really just like scale back as much as I can, so that way I can just like move, and then once I move, I can go crazy again. But yeah, no new pickups, unfortunately.
That's okay. I don't really have anything new myself. I think I do, like I showed you, I picked up like a comic book and something else, but yeah, nothing major, and very similar. I've been like today, went out with my son, bought clothes, for school and everything.
Nice.
That was a $200 spree, so he's gonna be just like a sharp dressed man now. But yeah, I've been wrangling it back, and I know I just had how we talked about the dark side pops coming out, and then we have the Boba Fett series, that Boba Fett Legacy or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on my Amazon, I got a message today. Do I still want to approve this order being delayed?
Yeah.
Come on. Like,
I hate that. That's the worst message. That's the worst message. I hate that.
No, I left them on order, and it was just the only thing I wanted to hear is they shipped. Not like, do I want them? Yes, I want them. But if you continue that, I'll do what I did last time. I'll go to Box Lunch, pick them up in person, and cancel my order.
Well, I think they are popping up at Box Lunch now. I've seen a few people, like the
Yeah.
Buck Collector. He found his. He's even doing a giveaway of one of them. So they're popping up. But that's the worst. Amazon. Shake my
I
head.
hate when that happens. That's just abysmal. But yeah, getting ready for the Halloween season. I'm starting to transition by adding some pumpkins to the collection behind me and things like that. So getting excited for that. It's kind of fun because it's always been a fun holiday with the kids. I think my daughter's already picking out hers. I think she's going to go out as Chaperone this year. Yeah, she's looking to do that for Halloween. So
hot to go.
yeah, so I'm pretty excited. She's and I don't know what my son. I don't know if he's going to be Michelangelo or what he's going to do. Oh no, I think he's going to go as Tails this year.
Okay,
Tails. That's it.
nice.
So they've got their ideas. It was fun. We'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. But Halloween's always fun. I know on my channel I tend to have some shenanigans, so those videos will start popping off here in another week. So I'm kind of excited. It's a good time because this rolls into Thanksgiving, which is a great time of year, and then it goes right into the holiday season of Christmas. So I'm always excited.
Yeah,
But what other news do we have besides that?
Well, we do have a very special guest that's waiting. If you'd want to introduce him, and then we can bring him on and have him introduce himself, and then ask him our 3 very special Popcast questions.
Sure. Well, today we have none other than another big fandom, and another what do you call Star Wars content creator. One of the members of Diet on the Force. We got Pep. He goes by Element 7. And without further ado, let's bring him on.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Nice to have you on, my friend.
It's great to be on. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our pleasure. So typically we ask a few questions. We don't have to send a protocol droid or a torture droid in there to get the answers out of you. But what we typically look for is, what is one of your most favorite Star Wars Funko Pops that you might have?
Well, admittedly, as I told you guys in previously from coming on, I don't typically collect Funko Pops. So you can see the one that I have is my favorite, which is the Sabine Wren
Nice.
exclusive. So I
Very
mean, there's several. Throughout the years, I've thought about picking up the Ahsoka one from the Ahsoka show, the one with the gray cloak. But yeah, my collection is just a vast variety of Star Wars stuff. More importantly, books, but a lot of it is in the data pad now.
Well, it's very interesting that you bring up books, because that's one of the main reasons we wanted to have you as a guest, because you really know a lot of great lore. You're kind of like Retney's Holocron, like you and him, and there's a few others out there that I think a lot of us Star Wars content creators and fans like to listen to, because you just know so much about all the stuff that maybe we don't have time to have gotten to. Like for me, and one of the reasons we had you on was like the High Republic, for instance. You're a little more versed in that than I am. I've tried to do some research and some reading. I think I have quite a bit of them in audiobooks, but I haven't even gotten to most of them yet. So kind of excited to hear some good details on the lore of the High Republic today from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think me and the other half in the Diane Force, Darth Chaco, make a quite a complete package, because my repertoire is about 80% canon, 20% legends, and his is about 50-50, and he covers a lot of the gaps that I have missing. But knowledge in Star Wars, it gets a huge rap, because obviously the fandom can be toxic in that regard. It can lead to a lot of gatekeeping. It can lead to a lot of, are you a true fan, or do you even know, are you new to Star Wars? And what we've tried to do over the past couple of years is make that less of a stigma and more of a, this is a place where you can ask us if you want to learn more, and we can tell you more, and then tell you where to learn more. Because the biggest problem we have with the economy of knowledge in Star Wars is that it comes from Wikipedia, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think more people can stand to benefit from learning how to use Wikipedia's bibliography or citations. So whenever something interests you, you can go to Wikipedia to see and to learn more, but then they have those footnotes that you can click on to see which book it comes from, and then you can get the complete picture from them.
And so basically you're telling everyone that's how you get down the rabbit hole, right here.
Yeah,
just click on that.
If
You'll
you
be lost for hours.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So what got you into Star Wars? What made you, kind of go all in? This is your fandom. You've got a channel. You've got, a lot of social media network of friends, and it's all what got you into that, in the Star Wars in the first place? And then follow up, I guess, would be like, what got you into doing a channel?
I think the story is very much the same for a lot of people, right? You either have a parent or an older sibling that sits you down and says, this is required viewing. And in my case, when I was like 6, my brother just came into our room one night and just had a VHS in his hand. He's like, I gotta watch this now. I'm like, okay. We don't really say much at 6 years old. So we watch it. I didn't really understand it. I just saw some laser bolts and I was like, ooh, this is pretty. And then as I got older, he showed me Empire Strikes Back. And when I saw Yoda and he was lifting the X-Wing, I got super, super into the mythology. And that's what started my interest in history. I'm not a history buff, but like, during my middle school years, and on, that was kind of what sparked the fantasy fan in me. And ever since then, I had delved into the reference books that Star Wars has always released. And then it kind of faded into obscurity for yeah, for like 10 or so years. I mean, there was the games that I would stay up to date with and play, like KOTOR 2, and Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO. But it was when Disney bought Star Wars that I was like, we're gonna get more, and so we got more, and the conversation around them socially was appalling. It had shades of the prequel trilogy, of course, like, you know, any other trilogy had a lot of hate, had a lot of attacking the actors, and it got on my skin. And that's when I think after the Rise of Skywalker, I had about enough of it and made my first video where I was telling people to shut up, basically, for euphemism for the other terms. And it was largely because a lot of people were clamoring for George to come back. And as someone who grew up on Star Wars, and I'm sure you guys can relate, we all know how the fans drove him out to begin with. And, you know, we can't have your cake and eat it.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, a lot of the start of my channel has been correcting the misinformation that comes out, especially from bad faith actors who try to make the conversation about a certain thing, like Rey is a Mary Sue, Rey is not a Skywalker, and, you know, even the conversation that has been recent around the Acolyte, where they take like irrelevant clips from like another movie that Amandla is promoting at the time, and kind of spins those words. And the latest antics today is taking people's personal experiences and just refusing them, denying them. You know, like just for lack of a specific quote, it's like someone watching Amanda Stenberg's Instagram story and saying, "No, you didn't get hate because I didn't do it personally." And
yeah, that's gaslighting. It's
just like,
still,
they're not
right?
they're not talking to you. This is their story, you know. This is their truth. So yeah, it's like meeting somebody on the side of the street and they're like, "Man, I'm having a bad day," and you're like, "Well, I'm having a great day." So you obviously, it's not true.
Yeah.
know?
But the other thing, we've talked about this, Lex, right? Like, what's going to end up happening is you're going to stigmatize coming aboard future projects. Like, I don't know what people are thinking. Like, again, here are people doing a great job. My daughter was very comfortable, you know, one, coming out, two, being able to say, "Hey, I can relate to these characters, and I now have something that's pulled me into Star Wars, Dad. Tuesday night, can we sit and watch this at 9 p.m.? 100%, dude, I've been waiting for this for 16 years, right? And it finally happens, and now I'm getting no season 2 because of all the it's horse pucky. And we've said this on our channel. We really enjoy it. And we don't really get a lot of negativity, you know, on our show or from our viewers, and that's great. Because we try to keep it positive, and we've joked, they can call you shill, whatever they want. I don't get $1. Lex, have you seen anything in your checking account yet?
Nope.
So, like, it's silly.
I think we'd all shill, like, immediately. Like, we could all make so much money if this was actually true.
Yeah.
Like, I would chill in a heartbeat, because they shell too, you know. They shill for the hatred crowd.
Absolutely. But we've just been enjoying just the content that's coming out, the projects that are ambitious. I mean, I thought the Acolyte was very ambitious to go in an area where no one knows anything really, unless you've read books. And kind of that's what I thought would be kind of nice, because I don't know about you, Lex, but I really haven't read much of them. I read the first of the series, and that's kind of like the intro, like that thing blowing up and coming out of hyper, all that craziness. That's just the beginning. And I was like, wow. And I haven't gotten back to it. So that's why I thought it'd be a nice place to kind of get into the lore, and kind of how we were trying to bring this back into what we do, Pep, was to kind of highlight. So what I did is I pulled up a few characters that I thought might help guide us to kind of talk about like the lore behind this, why these might make some really cool characters. And I kind of was where we usually go top 5, but I pulled a few more because it's too limiting to have top 5 with this whole new universe of characters. And there'd be, let's say, if you had 6 or 7 to make a great wave, right? So
I feel like that's like the entirety of Star Wars. You ask somebody like who's their top 5, they'll list the top 5, and you're like, but what about this character? You're like, oh my god, yes. Like you forget people. But that's like the best thing about Star Wars, right? And that has been some of the best highlights of being a Star Wars fan, is talking to people and sharing what they love. Our personal rankings of the movies, they're all different. Nobody's gonna have Revenge of the Sith at the top and then everything line up correctly. And
it's going to mean something different. Like it means something different from Lex, to our buddy Christopher, who's in Edmonton today, to me, to you, to your colleague that you do the Dyad of the Force with. So it's almost a personal connection, but yet it's a universal, a galactic connection that we all have from everywhere, all expanses of our world. They come all over the world to a Star Wars celebration and stuff like that, and to see this stuff. So I think it's much deeper. It's and you don't have too many, like, name a lot of other hit movies that have this kind of fandom and like passionate fans about. You know what I mean? Like it is truly unique in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of one.
But I'm going to pull up on the screen here some of those characters we were talking about. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy, to me, is one of the leaders of the Nile. Am I correct in that? And
yes.
How I said that, the Nile? Marchion Rowe, he's just a baddie. He is the, if you will, like the Thrawn or the Nemesis in this era of the universe. But I don't know everything about him. But he looks just mean, terrifying, like something that, like, if we ever see anything even close to this in Skeleton Crew, I think kids might not go to sleep that night, because he just looks something like out of your nightmares, but still has that Star Wars universe look. So I don't know if you can give us a little more lore and backstory to this guy.
So Marchion is an Evereni, basically, and it's spelled Ever and then ENI, which is a race of people that had largely been sequestered on a planet filled with like large storms, and one day their planet was threatened with a galactic storm that they had to leave and basically become nomads. But their people had largely been kind of prejudiced against from a lot of alien species, and in particular they have a huge history with the Jedi, which kind of rounds out why he has such a vendetta against them in phase 1 and phase 3. Well, no, all phases of the High Republic, actually. No, he's when I first saw him, he reminded me of the Cloud Riders in Solo.
Oh yes,
the helmet. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely a clever, smart, and very, very interesting villain.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool looking because he's kind of like a pirate, which we didn't really get too many kind of Star Wars pirates in, except you got in the Mando and in that show The Resistance, there, the animated show, they kind of had a little pirate. But other than that, so to see this kind of character and have this kind of, like you said, nomad or gypsy kind of pirate crew that just wandered from planet to planet wreaking havoc, it just seems kind of interesting.
Yeah, and our other experience with a pirate, Hondo Ohnaka, is like a caricature of like Jack Sparrow, and so it's like we haven't had one that's truly like a Black Bill or a, I think Black Bill is actually a cowboy. I forget my pirate names.
What's that guy's name?
I'm trying to access my Black Sails memory.
Can't remember. I know I watched it and I can't even think about it.
It was a black something. He was known for.
But I don't know.
Davy
What do you
Jones.
think, Lex?
Davy Jones is one of them. But there is one famous pirate that is called Black something.
Blackbeard?
Blackbeard.
Yeah,
Yes.
good call.
There you go.
You know what's crazy? Again, I feel like 7 degrees. So right where I used to live in this oil refinery town outside Philadelphia, right next to my baseball field, there's this house, and as kids, it was like dare to go in that abandoned house and stand there for 5 minutes at nighttime in the dark, and it's like that kind of creepy house. Years later, that house became a historic monument because it's what's called the Plank House. It was the known mistress of Blackbeard. I guess Blackbeard's parents were aristocrats from Philadelphia, and so when he would come into town every once in a while to visit his parents, he would shack up there with her and leave a lot of his stuff there so he didn't get caught with it in city bounds. Thought that was kind of cool, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? That place used to scare the bejesus out of me as a kid."
That's an awesome thing to find out,
right? Like that house that you would be petrified, and I guess that's probably why they never knocked it down, and nobody did anything back then. I don't think they had, probably the research and the monies to, do all that. But years later, they did. I thought that was crazy.
It's like some of the houses over in Pasadena Hills by me when I go up there, and it's like this creepy like house on the hill, and General Kenobi.
Yes. Hello there.
And I see, and I often wonder like the story behind them. I wonder if like one of them is a vampire. We'll never know.
You never know. You never know. Death Star Sisso. Personal connection is why we love the toys. Yeah, exactly. It's that nostalgia. It is that nostalgia.
Yeah, and we can never have conformity in Star Wars because that's just not Star Wars,
No.
That's why I like shake my head every time someone says, "How can you like this movie?" It's like, because I can. It's you don't have to like it. I'm not here to convince anybody to like something, but just accept that other people will like and dislike certain things. Star Wars isn't going to hit it out of the park every single time for every single person.
But I dare ask, and I kind of joked about this like with Lex and those guys, like if A New Hope came out today, how bad would that get panned, and would there even be anything after that? Like, would it have been canceled like an Acolyte? I honestly think in today's age, if they showed it and there's been nothing, it would get panned, laughed at, and it wouldn't have gone further in the way the fans today react to things. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the social media voice amplifies a lot of things, and this is something that I talk about a lot on my channel, is that our economy of knowledge is we benefit so much from having 40 years of information that has become common knowledge, but back then we weren't swimming in it. So if you've got those complaints for the Acolyte, talk about Tarkin saying the Jedi are extinct, and then the next movie Yoda shows up. Like, that's a social media outrage post right there. Well, I thought the Jedi were extinct. He says to Vader, "You, my friend, are the last of their religion, or what remains of their religion." It's like, so Vader's a Jedi. There's a lot of information that changed over the years that we've gotten from books. And then when the sequels came out, there was a lot of people like, "Oh, why do you need external media and books to talk about your movies?" Like, this has been Star Wars. Star Wars has done that. We didn't get Palpatine's name in the movies. We didn't get the Sith in the movies. It was in the novelization. He was just the Emperor in the original trilogy. So that's always been Star Wars.
Hello there. Hey there, Darth Mojo. Saw you pop up there just a second ago. So Lex, Avar Chris, thoughts?
I personally have not gotten around to reading any of the High Republic stuff. I've just recently, now that I don't have school or anything, have started reading the books, and the High Republic is definitely on my list. I just haven't gotten around to it. But the Acolyte definitely piqued my interest in the High Republic and learning more about it. And I know there are books that we're supposed to be getting, I believe. I think it's like two
Yeah.
books that are like around that. Either I think it's like a prequel to the Acolyte a little bit. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about those, but I honestly don't know too much about the High Republic era, the characters. I mean, I've only read up a little bit, I believe, on Vernestra, just because she was in the Acolyte, but I mean, it seems like most of the characters are pretty cool and they have, deep ties and connections and stuff. And it is something I do want to explore. I just haven't had the time.
No, I hear you. Like
Yeah.
I think I have all the audiobooks. I've listened to the one, and I just haven't had time. But it's also because I think a lot of that time is spent listening to my friends and other colleagues out there and their content. So it's like, oh, do I jump into that book, or I don't even know where I was last, or do I watch my friend? So that I choose my friend.
It's
But,
it's a rough thing to keep up with. I mean,
it is. It is.
I think next month the Mace Windu book is coming out, and so we all have to jump on that one. But I love that like the Acolyte got you interested in kind of going into getting into the High Republic. I think that's what I love about Star Wars is, everybody is at a different place within Star Wars, and some projects will bring you into the newer stuff, and sometimes I mean we have the Kalnaka comic that the first issue came out recently, and we're getting a Jecki and Yord book and a Vernestra and Indara book.
Love to learn more about Jecki, because I think she got taken away too soon.
Yeah,
that one hurt, man. That one hurt. I love the fact that he did it, but I was like, too soon. Like, you could have done that. Like, give me another season to do that. Oh, that was brutal.
It was one of those deaths that were like, yeah, it was coming, but could that not have been later?
Yeah. But it just, to me, again, I thought they took some big chances and risks by killing half the cast, right? Basically, everyone we watched through the season is pretty much gone. Like, that's pretty crazy. We haven't seen anything like that since like really Rogue One. So I felt it was a big risk to take. I thought it was well executed. I know I am hoping, Lex is hoping, Chris is hoping, if they can do another wave of Star Wars Funko, we want the Stranger. Like, I have to have Chimere as the Stranger with the helmet, two lights, his long and his short little blade lightsabers out. Oh man, it's gonna be ridiculous. I gotta have it. Yeah,
I mean, they got the helmet. The helmet is on sale. There's some Black Series, I believe.
There is a Black Series, but man. So what can you tell us about Avar Kriss? Because she seems to be a pinnacle character in a lot of the High Republic. Like, kind of like, dare I say, almost the Yoda of that time period? Or because I don't quite think Yoda is above her as of yet. Am I wrong?
Yoda is on the grand.
He's already there.
Council.
Okay,
yeah.
I thought he was still on the way there.
Yoda became a master at 100, so that would be like centuries before Avar Kriss.
Gotcha.
So he exists. So he's the Yoda of the Star Wars. Avar Kriss she is the pinnacle of this series, though. She is a Jedi Master. She's the first character we meet in the High Republic books. I don't know how far you got into. I don't really want to spoil too many finer details in the first book. So I'll just say she's the first character we meet during the hyperspace disaster, and is actually the first one that gives us our first interesting piece of lore in the High Republic, and that is how the Jedi view the Force. It's always been this kind of connective thing that binds the galaxy together, penetrates us, blah 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 blah. But in the first book, Light of the Jedi, we actually find out that Avar Kriss sees the Force as a song, And so the way she connects with other Jedi on the battlefield or just across the galaxy is hearing their chords.
Ooh.
And an imbalance in the Force or a tremor in the Force can come to her as a discordant like key or chord, and like something that just sounds out of tune.
That's cool, because that can almost even, again, more connection to Acolyte with the witches, and all that, and pretty
Yeah.
cool. Again, another, like you said, key piece of lore has dropped that might have literal sound ripples, into other things we're seeing, and we don't know. We'll probably won't get more on that. I hope we do, but that's cool.
I have faith. It's we don't always get the continuations in the way that we think that they're gonna happen.
Yes.
The way I cling to hope is that the Acolyte season 2 is not happening, but the Stranger season 1 is.
Oh, I love that. That's someone else has said that something similar, and I'm like, that's the theory I'm hoping.
Yeah.
We get they're not just an Acolyte. It's there's something. It's another name because it's a whole different thing. It's another phase. That'd be great. All right,
Man.
now this character, I just know she's a Nile. She looks awesome. Like this as a Funko Pop, because Funko does ridiculous aliens and creatures, and this is kind of like a mixture of both. So this is probably the one, if all of them, if not Marshawn Road, this one definitely would want to have as a Funko Pop, because she just looks badass, and she looks like she can handle her own. From what little research I did, even some pretty stellar Jedi, not just like any Jedi, but some like pretty high up there masters. So
Yeah, I mean, so there's not much lore in terms of the backstory for Lorna D. She is a thorn in their backside throughout the first phase of the High Republic. She is one of the, I forget what they call the higher ranks of the Nile, but she is one of them, and even against Avar Kriss, she kind of pulls one over on her, and often escapes and gets away, and she's a constant thorn in their side. And at one point, well, no, never mind, I don't want to spoil that one. She's a force to be reckoned with. She can kick some major butt, and for sure.
Now, what kind of species is she?
She's a Twi'lek.
Is she a Twi'lek? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know, because she kind of had that going on, but then she's got the helmet, so I'm not sure. Like, they seem the Niles seem to all have kind of helmets, so I didn't know if there's a purpose.
She could pull off a Yatja or a Predator, as the more popular term.
Oh, that looks just awesome. Just awesome.
That was cool.
Now, you mentioned, like, there's the phase 1. I think there's multiple phases. So, in the High Republic, but a question that I have is the High Republic solely just are the comics and graphic novels as important and telling just as much lore in that than the novels themselves? Or is it kind of really working as connective tissue?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
So there's in movies there's the plot and subplot. I think the main books, and we'll just stick to phase 1, for example, the main books, Light of the Jedi, Rising Storm, and Fallen Star, I think. Yeah. Gosh, it's been forever. They have an interesting and main narrative through line that they're telling about this. And there are some junior novels that will go ahead and travel with, let's say, A Test of Courage is the one about Vernestra, and during the hyperspace disaster they find themselves marooned on another moon, and they have their own kind of experience and story to kind of tell. So for the most part, like the High Republic Adventures, the High Republic comics, they'll tell some very ancillary narratives that happen concurrent with the main books.
Okay.
And so they're interesting reads. They're, especially if you want, like, if you want to fill in every single gap of knowledge of the High Republic, you're definitely going to go into the comics and the junior novels and the middle grades and stuff. But you can get, if you read just the main 3 books in phase 1, you kind of get a, episode 1, episode 2, and episode 3 feeling. And then the rest of the books and comics are like the Clone Wars.
Gotcha. We got Star Wars Unscripted. There are many contradictions in Star Wars. We all have to discriminate to suit our own hopes and feelings. We each have a headcanon. Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Darth Mojo couldn't agree more on Chimera, right? I definitely loved Chimera. Awesome. Who do we got next here? All right. This guy. I haven't seen the lightsaber in person, but like, I know if you're, close to Disney. Lex, did you get to see this when you were at Doc Ondor's or anything?
No.
Like, that lightsaber looks awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. It is one of the most elegant and beautiful looking lightsabers at Ondor's, for sure. Stellan Gios is... There's not much I can say about Stellan Gios without spoiling a lot. He's he's just one of those characters. He's part
Does he get romantic with Avar or one of the other female Jedi, or am I wrong?
So he's part of a what the fans call a polycule between Elzar Mann and Avar Kriss, and they were like a trinity of friends, growing up in the Order. And so there's I don't know, I wouldn't say a bit of a triangle there, but there's certainly like they are important to each other.
Yeah.
And Stellan is one of those masters that is an immediate Obi-Wan kind of stand-in,
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was wondering what his connections with the other Jedi, is that really something that maybe early eras, in this era, was then taught to be like, yeah, no connections. Like I was kind of curious if these were maybe laying the breadcrumbs for why Jedi couldn't have personal connections at that. Did it start here, or is that even prior to this? So,
well, I mean, from what we know of canon Old Republic and canon earlier times, attachment was always, even though the Jedi Code says there is no emotion, like a lot of people misinterpret that for being like rules of living, but it's just their framework for connecting to the Force, right? If you allow your emotion to creep into your connection with the Force, it can lead down the dark side. For the most part, from ever since the end of Bane to the High Republic Phase 1, attachment had always been something that is a given, but is something that is frowned upon. But even when attachments were formed, like I said, they treated it as a given because Master and Apprentice already is an attachment. And your home of the Jedi Order is an attachment, which is why I always point to Ahsoka leaving it as being the most Jedi decision she ever made. Because there's also another book, Midnight Horizon by Daniel Jose Older, where Yoda has an apprentice that wants to explore romance, and the apprentice says, "I'm going to leave," and Yoda says, "Great. I love that decision for you." And they go and explore their romance. They have a normal life. They experience some normal things. They find another Force sensitive, and they bring them back. They bring them back to the temple, And Yoda welcomes them back and says, "That was your trial. You are now a knight." And so a lot of people don't know that you can leave the Jedi Order and still make progress. It's what you learn.
Yeah,
And
it's like personal quests almost.
yeah,
To get what, because each person probably has to meet that quest and fulfill it differently than the next one. So that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Interesting.
Now this guy, only because a Trandoshan Jedi, like that alone, hook, line, and sinker. I was like, this guy, excellent Funko Pop, excellent Funko Pop.
Yeah, especially that version right there. He's Skier is the master of Keeve Trennis, and he's an interesting character because Trandoshan is like the last species you would think, them and Wookiees. Well, Wookiees have a little bit more of a kind of a peaceful
more in tune with
them.
the forest and the trees.
Yeah. Trandoshans on the other hand have this primal aggression just inherently that they have to work through. And so imagine trying to be a Jedi, like from being a youngling, and then you grow into this primal like phase of your life, almost like
they seem like they're hunters almost by natural selection.
Yeah. And so his kind of like important story in the High Republic is having to teach Keeve Trennis the ways of calmness and stillness while fighting what is known as the Magrok syndrome. And this has something to do with Trandoshans, and that is something that affects a Trandoshan where they try to suppress their primal. It's like going through puberty and like trying to refuse to grow up, and then suddenly when you hit 21 or 22, that comes back to bite you in the butt, and then you like grow suddenly, and I don't know if I can make that analog, but I'm just trying. But the syndrome basically, his primal nature has been suppressed, and now he can't control his emotions the way he used to be able to. And so he has to make a choice between addressing this syndrome or losing his connection to the Force. And it's a tragic story.
That sounds really, really deep. I like that. Yeah, again, I think this guy would make a fantastic pop. Fantastic looking pop. All right, we've got two more. So we kind of brought this guy up. We talked about his connection to the other two. So give us a little more backstory on this character.
So Elzar Man is the third of the polycule between Avar and Stellan. He is quite literally the cautionary tale of Anakin Skywalker.
Okay.
Throughout these books, he is constantly tempted by the dark side, and much like Avar Kriss sees the Force as a song, he sees it as a massive ocean, which is a cool little art piece that we're seeing right now. But he is often he's the one that's more promiscuous. He's like the Rael Averross of the High Republic. If you've read Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray, Rael Averross is like a huge playboy. In this regard, Elzar Man is also a playboy, likes to sleep around, likes to get frisky, and he has anger issues. And in one of the books, I'm not going to say, just so you guys can experience it for yourselves. In one of the books, there's, a very huge battle is happening, and they are cornered. The Jedi are cornered, and there's not much they can do, and so Elzar taps into the dark side and does a tremendous telekinesis feat.
Oh, okay.
The the difference between Elzar and Anakin is as soon as he does it, he turns around to his constituent and says, I need help. So he seeks therapy. He's given a companion to take him into solitude and to, you know, reset and rebalance himself. And it doesn't completely go away. This isn't like, you know,
kind of sounds like the Winter Soldier story a little bit, right?
Yeah. It doesn't truly kind of recede. You know, the dark side is always there. One of my favorite quotes from A Test of Courage from actually Skier is that you know, falling to the dark side isn't just a series of bad days. We choose the light over and over again, right? So it's not like you the path to the dark side is deliberate. That's what he said. It's been a long time. And it's true, because every single day we have to make a choice. Are we going to bring joy to somebody? Are we going to help this kind of collective that we are a part of? Or are we going to be crappy to someone? Are we to yuck someone's yum? Or are we going to share in their joy? Yeah, that's his story. The darkness is always like ever present, and he has to fight it.
But that's cool. I like that, because it's nice that we have that with Anakin and, you know, the characters we know, and to still have other characters that you can relate to going through it even back then. It's not like, oh, it's just this character goes through it. No, everybody does. Because I think, you know, in Clone Wars, we really, you know, which is surprise to me, was seeing Yoda go through like a trial and seeing himself literally as a dark side version of himself and facing that. I always thought those little side stories just added more to what I remember as a kid, Luke not choosing to go down the dark side, you know, watching Anakin not. Did he really knowingly know he was going dark? He was doing it for what he thought were best intentions. So again, it's just neat to see those echoes even in the High Republic.
Absolutely. And one of the chief complaints about the Acolyte was that a lot of the things that they were doing were making Anakin less special. And I often wonder what they think the galaxy looks like to them. Like, Anakin's this large shining beacon that is the galaxy and no one else can exist, you know, but like even Elzar Mann and Yoda and all of the characters within the Clone Wars, they all have their special place. They all have what makes them unique. And to take someone else's story or attempt at telling a story like Osha and May, and try to connect it to Anakin in a way that it is a zero-sum game. It's like, no, Anakin is special. He is unique for his story. But Osha and May are also unique and special for their story. It's impossible to think that over the vast amounts of millions of parsecs across the galaxy, Anakin is the only special thing that's ever happened.
No, I agree. And we've got some people out there saying the same thing. Like, life existed before and after.
I love Anakin also. Like, and I have a lot of great friends that are Anakin stans, but yeah.
And the last one we had, Finestra. Lex, your thoughts on Finestra?
I mean, from what I've heard, again, I haven't read the books or anything, but I guess her portrayal in The Acolyte is much different than how she's portrayed in the books. But I guess also in the books, she's a lot younger. So clearly, you know, there's been some time that has passed to where we see her in The Acolyte, and she's clearly lived some life, and, you know, maybe things have changed and she's a little bit more political based and kind of, you know, more centered in that. I wish we got to see a little bit more of her, especially with the light whip. I thought, you know, its little introduction was kind of vague-ish, like, you know, kind of just hit the bug and that was it. And I was like, really? That's all that we got? So I don't know. I thought her kind of connection to Chimere or the Stranger, I don't even know what we're calling him anymore, but like I wanted that to be explored more because I thought that was very interesting. So that's what I was really excited for a season 2, is to kind of see, you know, hey, he was a Jedi. He was actually Vernestra's Padawan, and now he's here on the same planet that Plagueis is on. Like, what kind of happened? So I think she's a very interesting character. Again, I don't know too much about her pre-Acolyte and kind of what happens in the High Republic, but I know a lot of people are Vernestra stans, and I totally get it. So it would be nice to learn more. I just need to read the books. I think that's what this all boils down to.
Me too. Read, listen, get them in front of me.
Yeah, I think I would venture to say that she's misunderstood in the Acolyte. It is the truth that she is 100 years older. That would make her around 120 or 118 somewhere. So things can happen and will have happened to change her overall kind of disposition. But I think she's, for the most part, consistent. I think due in large part to her actual resistance to the body politic, right? I think
wasn't she like a weight seeker or something before, like early on as well?
Yeah.
She was so she became a knight at 16 and
Like
already had
and
already had a Padawan. Their Padawan was knighted, and she became a Wayseeker during that time as well. But that's the end of that story. Fast forward to the Acolyte, but I think what they were trying to do in the Acolyte is, of course, lead to what George Lucas set up in the prequels, right? And we hear a lot of the complaints about, oh, the Jedi are supposed to be the good guys, they're supposed to be composed, and they didn't like their portrayal of the Jedi. But blame George Lucas. He set up their fall in the prequel trilogy, and that's what stories told before then have to lead to.
Yeah,
that's what connective threads are. And so I think Vernestra especially recognizes these cracks in the order, right? That's why she's saying, let's keep this from the High Council, because they're obligated to tell the Senate, right? She's fighting Raincourt like 100%, trying to keep him at bay because he wants to tighten the grip on the Jedi Order and their autonomy. He wants to put them under review, and if we think about where they are at in episode 1, definitely wants to integrate them into the government body as like a Sokovia Accords. And so, like, yes, Vernestra is a little bit more stoic, a little bit more mature, but I still think she has the best interests of the Jedi Order deep in her mind, trying to keep them from being this kind of vehicle for the government, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I just think she's a cool character. We were disappointed that we're not getting much more of her, because unfortunately I felt like she was like a cutscene in a video game. Anytime I saw her, it's just like a one-off little blurb, and then that's it. And I feel like I really, like Lex said, I want to see that story of her and Chimera. Like, what happened? Like, how to get those scars? Who took him in after? Was Plagueis kind of being like, Palpatine was to Anakin when she went to Mustafar and found him on the, side of the lava? I want to know that. And so I hope that we get more, I hope.
I mean, if for anything else, that's the story I'm writing. Not officially, of course.
Nice.
Sometimes we got to take things in our own hands.
Nice. Little fan story. Nice. Fan fiction.
Yeah.
What do we got? A couple comments. Religion and politics rarely work, right? Agree on that.
I mean, I don't think they ever worked.
People change, especially when they live that long. Yeah. 100%.
I mean, empires rise and fall because the religious body and the body politic, they get in bed with each other, and they're two their two agendas don't mix. They have like like different desires, right?
Yeah, 100%. Now, before we go, Lex, do we have a piece of news of any new pops or anything?
I think we do. Well, initially the rumor that was kind of circulating was 4 pops that we were supposed to get from
The Legends, right?
like the Legends, and
The
we got
Gaming Great
the first
Legends.
3. So we got the first 3. Those are kind of out and about. And then we finally got images this week of this guy, which I thought was interesting because I remember when the rumor was circulating, we were like looking him up and we were like, wow, like how could they do that? And they've done it. So we are getting a T3M4 Funko Shop exclusive, a Gaming Greats line, and I think it looks really cool. It kind of gives me like
It
little
looks
puppy dog vibes.
Yeah, it looks so good. Like, it was funny because as soon as I saw this drop, I think on Disc Trackers, I think I
Yeah.
saw this, and just in the box, it immediately took me back to playing that game. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's the this droid with you almost the whole game, and you have to control him at one point." Very cool. Like, this is a cool cut. It's a deep cut. I love this. I mean,
Yeah.
he worked with Revan and all that back in the game, so very cool. Looks great. I mean, I love that kind of like blue with the. It's just the color. It looks fantastic. Very excited for that guy.
Especially when you think about KOTOR's back in the remake is back in the kind of new cycle. Saber Interactive came out and they were like, "Yeah, we're still working on it." It's a huge endeavor. I don't think it's going to be out in the next 2 years or so.
Really? By then, I would think the game engine and all that changes so much. You'll be playing catch up again to recode the whole thing, and maybe they get it to a certain point where it can be the platform could be coded quicker with an update. I don't know, but I would think that's the race they're up against. At that point, you're gonna have new stuff changing so quickly. It's hard.
Yeah, from what I know, I think they're using the Unreal Engine, and it might be Unreal 5. Fun fact: I am a game designer by trade, so I think it's okay for them to be an Unreal 5. It's constantly updated, and they'll be relatively current for the next 5 or 6 years. Even if they release an Unreal 6, it's still, they're still going to be releasing games for the PS5 and
nice.
The
Because
Xbox.
I can see. I mean, the old game, obviously, it's very kind of angular and flat compared to what we get now. So could you imagine seeing this little dude rolling around, update it? This is awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't wait to have him on display because he just looks so cool. Love him. Love
The
him.
KOTOR was revolutionary in its time. Not a lot of open worlds back then.
Mm-mm.
And even though their open world was relatively small in comparison to the open worlds we get nowadays, it was still unprecedented. Like landing on Dantooine and running around that, even if it was small in relation to what we have today, it was still really wasn't done. So it is a huge game to kind of bring to bear on modern systems for sure. And if they're going to update the combat system, I know the combat system hasn't aged very well, but I would love them to do a Baldur's Gate type of kind of system. I absolutely loved Baldur's Gate 3, and a KOTOR with that system would be it would be epic.
Are you guys playing Outlaws?
Yes. I love that game. I mean, if you can land in Tatooine and hop on a speeder and just happen upon Lars Homestead, you've made it in Star Wars.
That's cool. See, I'm still on the. I definitely know I haven't left the planet I'm on. I'm still very, very, very early in on it. So.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to do in the first planet.
But I'm just taking my time. I barely get time to play games, so I wanted to just get it because I think the game the worst at is Squadrons because I can't fly to save my life. Those games are awful for me. So I gave up on that. I'm a kamikaze flyer in that game. I'm bad.
We're Obi-Wan in that regard, right?
Yep.
It's like I hate flying.
But I don't think there's much else going on in the world of Star Wars and Funko. But again, thank you so much for coming on with us today. It was nice to just kind of for us to bridge that gap between the High Republic, knowing some lore, us, trying to figure out like what characters would be great for Funko Pops. Again,
all of them.
Yeah, right. That's why I had a hard time trying to choose to have the top 5. So it's like a top 7. We gave you a 2 bonus because there's so much going on, and it's what was really cool as what we were picking out and kind of like, well, let's talk about these guys. You were actually talking about guys, and everyone we basically had in our thoughts mentioned and put in there. You were able to have the lore, and we got to even during our show have them connect it so if people didn't know, they were starting to kind of piece things together. So that was really cool today. I really enjoyed that. A lot of fun. So before we exit, could you tell people where they can find you and your channels and stuff like that?
Sure. First of all, thank you guys for having me on. It was an absolute honor and a blast. I will admittedly try to find some more Funko Pops just for you guys. But yeah, you can find me on TikTok at _element7_. That's really the hero platform that I make content on. But we're trying to expand our reach further into the YouTube space. We know it's a huge cesspool right now of misinformation and just rage baiting. But we have to try. Right?
We will tread those waters, right?
We
will tread those waters and get through it. We'll get through it. So we're going to jam through it like hyperspace.
Yeah, and in that regard, you can find us at youtube.com/dyad in the force, DYAD in the force. And our live show is every Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific.
Excellent.
And then like on Instagram, you'll find me in that stuff.
So Lex, where can people find you when you're not typically on here with me and Christopher and special guests? Where can they find you?
I'm usually on my own channel, which is Jedi Lex, and I kind of just do everything and all things Star Wars, conventions, collectibles, news, reactions. I did finally get a video up. I reacted to the what was it? Rebuild the Galaxy. I thought that was pretty cute, so I definitely enjoyed that. I do think I will be going to a convention tomorrow, perhaps. So we'll see if I can get a video out for that. But I don't know. I've just been like in a little bit of a lull, kind of getting ready for some big life changes. So content creating has kind of taken a little bit of a back seat, unfortunately. But I'm excited for when I can get back into it and kind of, be a little refreshed and start really kind of pushing out content again. But that is where you guys can find me. And I really do appreciate you coming on. I thought it was great kind of getting a little bit of a crash course, I guess you could say, of some of these characters that we've heard of but don't know too much about. And it totally solidified the fact that I need to now go read these books. So that is on my to-do list and I appreciate it. But Patrick, when you're not here with me and Chris usually, and any guests that we have on, where can people find you?
I'm usually on my channel over at Poptography or Poptography YT on any of the social media outlets, doing Star Wars Funko Pop images, photography, as well as doing my own unboxings and toy hunts. I also have been partnering up with our friend Clan Brandalorian, but he's been doing a little bit of a Datalorian duty lately. So we weren't able to do our rebuild the galaxy because he was busy rebuilding the family, right? He was adding a new Padawan to it. So with that, I think we are saving it for next weekend or the weekend after. We will do our wrap up for September, and we'll probably cover it during then because there's so much we wanted. Like I think I had a piece edited so we can go in, but we're gonna probably chop it down and get to like what are each of our favorite little pieces of it, as well as cover. I think the big announcement that he's excited for is the UCS Jabba's sail barge. He's been talking about it, leak, when it first was leaked and rumored. So I'm sure I'm going to leave that for him. But yeah, and I'm actually getting into the season on my channel at Poptography for the Halloween. So I'm very excited. We're going to have some Halloween shenanigans again this year. And just a little attempt with the first thing, we are doing a custom Frankenstein retro Stormtrooper. So it should be kind of fun, little monster mashups, as I'm calling them. And I'm working on one tonight, as well as working. I don't know if the show got to see it, but earlier they got to see a little behind the scenes of what's currently on the set that I'll be working on tonight. So a little love for the Acolyte coming out there next. So be prepared to see that. But enough about me and everything. We miss you, Chris. Wish you were here. I know you're having a great time in Edmonton. Look like you got some great artwork, great photo ops. Hope you had a rest of a great time. Lex, it was a pleasure. Element 7, Pepito, Pep, thank you for coming today. Just loved having your knowledge there on an area that we are like barely scratching the surface on knowing much about. So that was really great. Lex, you called it out perfectly. It was a crash course today for us and for our fans out there and community. And I wanted to also mention you, Lex, when you're saying, because you're moving and all that, and you haven't been doing a lot. Don't worry about it. You built a great community, and the community is there for you so that you live your life, so that when you're ready to come back and do your thing, don't worry about it. That's why you have got a great, strong community out there, and we love you for it. So anyway, that'll do it for our episode today. Thank you very much. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to the chat, and may the force be with you.
Bye, guys.